we invested at 85 cents. Quant went on to be almost $500, and we got into Avalanche at 50 cents. Avalanche went on to be over $100. The 50x turned to 100, 200x.
Yeah, that would have been it, right? That was the catalyst.
Right, up to 1,000x.
How exactly did you start Gains, and what was your personal journey?
On our website, we have this tagline, right? Invest early so you can wake up late. This is what we're doing. We're trying to find the next Bitcoin. There's going to be huge opportunities in the next 6, 12, maybe 24 months.
How do people get started?
I'm really excited to work with Mesin because I know the people here will understand
how big this is.
So how are you today, Alexander?
I am great, excited to talk about crypto, investing, what we've been through, the lessons we've learned, and the roadmap for the future as well.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're very, very pleased to have you here today. So you have just announced that Gains will be collaborating with Mesin DAO. You want to tell us a little bit more about that? It's a very exciting time.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, we've been talking, building, getting to know each other behind the scenes for about a year now. And we've learned a lot together. They're obviously Asia focused. We come from Europe, so different cultures. And I would say we bring the 7 years of crypto track record experience, and they bring lots of energy, right? A massive community in Asia, which, Europe is much more regulated, slower. Asia is more hungry. So it's actually a really good fit. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to tell us a little bit more about what Gains is?
Sure, yeah. So look, Gains we started 7 years ago, and there's many ideas behind Gains, right? To really give more context, when you want to invest in the traditional world, right?
Okay.
It's actually not that easy because there's this concept of accredited investor, right? And an accredited investor is pretty much someone who has money, right? And there's thresholds. You need to have either $1 million in assets, or you need to prove you've made over 200K over the past 3 years and things like that, right? And so pretty much it's, if you want to invest in certain opportunities, you need to be an accredited investor. And it's this case of the rich get richer, right? Which for me, I had some money, some savings from internships, odd jobs here and there. And I'm decently smart, I can understand things, and I wanted to invest in certain opportunities. And because I certainly did not have $1 million to my name at that point, right? I was not an accredited investor. I couldn't access these opportunities. And that pissed me off, actually, to be honest with you. I mean, why am I not allowed? I'm willing to take the risk. I'm not gonna come and cry, no crying in the casino and whatever. There's risk, I understand. And yeah, so that is how it works in the real world, right? In crypto, with the beauty of certain key properties of crypto, namely in that case, decentralization and permissionless, you are able to bring opportunities to the everyday man, right? If you work a job, you're an engineer, doctor, whatever you are actually, and you have some money to invest, you can do it if you find the right people, if you find the right channels. And for me, that was very empowering, right?
Right. So what you're saying is that Gains is something very accessible for everyone, and there's something for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
And
that's amazing to know. I mean, the way you're explaining it for a noob like me, someone who knows absolutely nothing about crypto, it's very enlightening. And maybe we can definitely talk a little bit more about this and how we can bring this to be accessible to the general public.
Yeah, so it's funny, right? When we were starting out, the journey in crypto is usually you come in, you buy Bitcoin, you learn a bit, you buy Ethereum, you learn a bit more, maybe you get into Solana or BNB, and then you get into deeper and deeper projects. Maybe you learn about DeFi, about yield, about NFTs, right? Maybe you're gonna kind of specialize in a certain niche. And for me, that niche was early stage investing. private sales, seed rounds, what they're called. And there were actually lots and lots of groups like Gains when we started out in 2018. Lots and lots, maybe like 100, right? In Facebook, Telegram, Discord. And these groups were kind of like forming without much structure, right? People showed up, you really didn't know who they were. And if they had some kind of aura and they brought good projects, people would trust them, right?
Mhm.
With their money. And the space was so crazy at the time that you could, on average, did like 5 or 10x on almost every investment, right? So it worked in such a way that you could actually afford to get scammed, right? Even 2, 3 times out of 10, right? And still be profitable. But to tell you the truth, it really wasn't a pleasant feeling, right? Because it was a wild time. Lots of the admins of these groups were anonymous. You really didn't know who were operating these groups.
Right.
And at first, I started as a user of these other groups, right? And I made some profits, but I was like, we can do much better, right? And what if we start our own group? What if we come in, we show our faces, and we show the history we have of social media and how we grew up, and we show our LinkedIn, and we show that we are real people. And we come in and we do interviews, and we share interviews with projects as well. And then people will trust us, and they're going to feel much safer. They're going to be able to invest more. They're going to feel more confident bringing their friends.
Yes.
And
Yes.
this is pretty much how it started, right? Slowly with this idea. And then it grew organically to what it is now today.
How did you? I know you talked a little bit about the early days. How exactly did you start Gains, and what was your personal journey? Was there? You mentioned something about being frustrated in the beginning, and so was that kind of like the key point, the key turning point where you started Gains? What was that journey like?
To be honest, we saw the opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we started simply by, okay, how are we gonna call it, right? We need a name. So okay, we brainstormed a bit. And I mean, gains was like short and sweet. Obviously, financial gains, very apropos, right? And actually, because of the whole idea of community, gains, you can actually make it mean something, right? If you take all the letters, it can be group action is never small, right? So
Action is never small. Gains.
right, yeah. So it spells the name gains, and it's exactly this. In crypto, you have these names. You have the whale, which is the big investor that multi-millionaire and everything, maybe manipulates the market even, and then you have the small fish, right? And the idea is that the fish in the sea, when there's many fish, they take shape, right? And they stay together so that sharks, it's harder for them to eat the fish.
Right.
So it
Right,
was the
right,
whole
right.
idea
The
that
group,
lots of fish, lots of small crypto investors together, they can be bigger.
to form something larger as part of all the small little components put together as part of something larger.
Absolutely, yeah. So that was the whole idea, the whole vision behind Gains. It is still what it is today. And yeah, that's how we started. We started in February 2018.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
just before COVID hit.
yeah, a bit before that.
Yeah.
And it was actually slightly after the peak of 28. Bitcoin peaked at 20K late 27, early 2018. And then the market was going down, but there was still lots of energy in the market. So when we started, we were still able to give great returns to the community almost on a weekly basis, actually.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. Do you mind sharing a little bit of your track record?
I would say one of our biggest wins was in May 2018. So only 3 months
Wow.
after we
Yeah,
started.
exactly. You just
right?
started in February, and you're saying
Yeah.
May was the biggest win. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us more about it.
So that was Quant. Quant is now a top 100 project, and we invested at 85 cents. Quant went on to be almost $500. at the top, right? So of course, you might not sell the very top, but look, even if you sell at 100, it's still very, very good, right? And that was actually our biggest raise to date because we had raised 50K, 100K for a few projects, but people felt we actually managed to negotiate a really, really solid deal for this, and we got 500,000. We invested through our community 500K into quants, and so that made lots of people very happy when it ended up having its run. So that was the first like really, really huge win. And then we had many throughout the cycles, right? Another very strong one is Avalanche. Avalanche is like top 20, top 30 now crypto project. So huge. And we got into Avalanche at 50 cents. Avalanche went on to be over $100. It's still around 20, 30, something like that today. So massive returns as well. And to be honest, we invested in literally every vertical in crypto. We invested in DeFi, we invested in layer ones, infrastructure, layer twos, we invested in gaming, in metaverse. We invested in literally everything depending on when it was hot, right? In crypto, it's really important to feel the trends, right? What is hot? It's really the key of the game. And maybe the last one that I would mention is called Blocktopia. Blocktopia was a metaverse. Metaverse now is dead, right? But in 2021, there was lots and lots of hype about the metaverse. Blocktopia in itself was a very solid project, but they had this really lucky timing, to be honest. And you need some luck to achieve exceptional things. They listed, they did 50x, which in itself is huge, right? And a few days later, Facebook renamed to Meta. And so that propelled the metaverse hype through the roof, right?
Yep.
And then the 50x turned to 100, 200x.
Yeah, that would have been it, right? That was the catalyst.
Right, up to 1,000x.
Yeah.
And so we could not believe, we're like, how is this thing still going up, right? And people were literally crazy. And so for me, like I tell people, crypto has changed my life. And there's really something about crypto that is outside the normal boundaries of the world, right?
Yep.
And there's many reasons that we could delve into why, but the main one I would say is because it's digital, right? And all these tokens at the core, they're just ideas, right? Ideas that can spread limitless in the internet, right? If you compare it to a traditional business and you are a hairdresser, you can only cut so much hair per day. If you're a taxi driver, you can only drive so many people around, right?
Yep.
There's physical limitations in the physical world with time, with the energy you have to how much you can do. In the internet, ideas can spread fast without, through borders and everywhere, right? And that's why you can see such explosive growth. So, and I think, we live in a very special time. We're lucky to have these opportunities, and it's up to us to seize them.
So that's really, really interesting. Now you've got me interested.
Yeah.
You want to tell me a little bit more about how you do your due diligence and how do you actually locate these projects? What do you do? I mean, how would you know?
Sure.
Is there a process to it?
Yeah, there is. So I could talk about this for literally hours, to be honest.
Go ahead.
The main thing it comes down to is intuition, right?
Okay.
Sometimes you just know. We've all had, myself, my co-founders, my due diligence team, literally thousands of calls over 7 years with various projects, right? So you develop a bullshit detector, right? I could, and we'll go a bit into like the technical aspect, how we look at tokenomics and so on. But for me, first of all, you need energy, right? You invest in people.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. I mean, just as in the physical world, you do invest in the person rather than, most of the time it's not so much about a product, but in the people behind it and what drives them.
Absolutely, yeah. And look, if you're going to do something exceptional, if you're going to move mountains, you need to be slightly delusional, okay? You need to believe in yourself
I absolutely
first,
agree. Yes, I
right?
absolutely agree. In order for you to achieve something exceptional, you must be different, because if you're doing what everyone else are doing, you're only going to be ever as good as everybody else.
Right. And I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about you're a high achiever in swimming, right? And you need to know I'm gonna crush these guys, right? And you need to wake up in the morning at 7 and go to the maybe cold pool and do the
5:30.
laps. Right? So fuck. Yes.
Yes, so it's the same concept. If you want to achieve something exceptional, you need to be different, because
Yep.
if you are just going to be the same, then kind of delusional to think that doing what everyone else are doing is going to achieve you exceptional results. So
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely. I mean, when you're going to build so much value, it's actually kind of like against the laws of nature, right? To move so fast, so much matter, right? In effect. And so you're gonna have huge challenges. You're gonna have pain. You're gonna have non-believers. You're gonna have so many things happen to you. So if you don't have that huge belief within yourself, you're just gonna collapse, right? Now, this delusional factor doesn't mean you should be crazy, right? It should be backed by actual skills, actual execution, right? Like, come on. So we look, of course, at track record, right? What have you done before? Were you a successful entrepreneur? What have you done? And so on. Track record is obviously very important for us. And then we look at everything we can, literally, right? All the facets. I was talking about tokenomics. Tokenomics, they need to be balanced, right? We actually have advanced tools. We plug in a project tokenomic, and let's say you have 100% of your tokens, right? You're going to allocate some to your team, to your advisors, for marketing, for liquidity on exchanges, for community incentives, right? And then you're going to have different vestings for each of these buckets, right? And so we're able to model how the selling pressure is going to be throughout time. Oh, are you going to have lots of problems at the beginning, in the middle of your journey in your project, and so on? And so we come in with project, oh, you should maybe reduce this. The price for this round is too much or too little. So there's lots of very small details. And also, for example, tokenomics evolve, right? Like there's trends in crypto, not only for the ideas, but for all these small details like this, right? Sometimes, depending on the market cycles, the tokenomics are more compressed. Sometimes they can be looser. So all of these small details we know. And to be honest, we kind of get a feel for the CEO if he knows the kind of the vibe, the trends, right? But we also do not expect him to know as much as we do, because he has a project to build. Our job as investors is to have a broader view of what happens. And so
Right.
we're happy also to guide projects, and we also look at how coachable is this guy, right?
Right.
So we ask him, okay, sure, what's your journey in crypto? What have you gone through? And so we get a feel for, does he know some of the protocols? And yeah, we ask questions. Oh, what do you think of this project, and so on. So it's really getting a feel about the person, talking to some of his other co-founders. Actually, a big factor is co-founder disagreements when it comes to startup failure. So you try to get a feel for things, and then you make your decision, right? And we take a look at the socials, of course. We take a look at so many more things that I could tell you. Socials, they can be faked quite a lot, right? And so quality is often better than quantity. And I'm happy to give you, one heuristic that we use is we look at the people who follow a certain account, right?
Right.
We don't look at whether you have 10,000 or 100,000 followers. We look at it, but we kind of dismiss it. We look at, okay, sure, does CZ follow you? Or does, do other reputable people in the space follow you? That means you have credit in the space. And what can happen is the 100K account, when you go on X, on Twitter, you see, oh, followed by 26 people that you follow, right? And sometimes it's like no one that you follow follows them. I'm like, these guys, they just botted their account, right? So there's from very basic to very fine, granular things. We take a look at all this and then we make a decision. And what we do also is we maintain relationships with literally hundreds of projects, right? Because some projects were like, hey, we like these guys, but it's a bit too early. They're not ready. Maybe because crypto is full of surprises, maybe they will land a huge investor. Maybe they will manage to ship a very exciting product. And in that case, we have calls every 3-6 months, and we check up on them. And we're like, hey, how are you doing? And maybe it becomes a good opportunity at some point.
Okay. Okay, so what you're saying, it's more the human relation, the people driving it, and so that's how you vet the project, and that's the due diligence is.
Yeah.
Are there any other technical aspect that you may want to share with us?
I mean, look, technical a bit, but to be honest, in crypto, tech might win over 10 years, but it's not going to win in the short time, right? What wins in the short time is pure marketing, FOMO, design, execution, right? The perception, how it looks like rather than how the engine is. And that is the truth, right? And
Welcome to today's world.
yeah, you have to be pragmatic. You have to know the world. So we make both, right? We make very long-term investments in people who are very smart and will be like a killer product. But we also make investments in people who carry themselves really well, who understand how the game works, right? And for that, for example, social proof, the names. Do you have big VC names, big exchanges? Are you friends with certain people behind the scenes? That matters, right? So all of these things we take into account.
Now, is Gains audited?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are audited by actually 3 companies. So we have our own, social proof. We're audited by PugShield, Certic, and Hacken. And these are 3 of the biggest, most reputed auditors. The links are actually on our website, so it's all public, right? The beauty of crypto and the blockchain is that many things are public, and you don't have to take my word for it, right? So we actually have our smart contracts triple audited. We haven't had any hack in 7 years, because when you're in the business of investing, trust is the currency, right? And sadly, trust has this very, very annoying property. When you're in my shoes, it takes a long time to build and it takes a very short time to ruin, right? And so that's why you have to be so careful. That's why you have to show up every day. That's why you have to put in the work. And so that's why we made all these audits. That's why we tried to do our best every day to find the best opportunities for our community.
Wow, it looks like you guys are really, really transparent. That Gains everything is out there being audited, and you do your due diligence. So it looks really, really, really proper. And
Thank
so now, coming back to Mesin DAO, what did you see in them?
Right. So this is actually funny because on our website, we have this tagline, right? Invest early so you can wake up late, which, by the way, I love. And we tell people this is what we're doing. We're trying to find the next Bitcoin, okay? Bitcoin was literally the biggest opportunity on earth. You could have bought Bitcoin for 10 cents. One Bitcoin is now $100,000, right? That's literally a million X, right? You put $1, you would have 1 million, just $1, right? Anyone can spare $1. So this opportunity was the most amazing opportunity in the entire history of Earth.
Yes.
This opportunity is gone, right? With Bitcoin. If you put money in Bitcoin now, you're going to do 2x, 3x, maybe 5x over a few years, over a decade. That's fine, but that's not going to change your life, right? And so the beauty about crypto is that it's not going to be a million X, but there's still 50Xs, 100Xs, 200Xs there to be found, right? And so finding the next Bitcoin, finding the next breakthrough project is really what we're after, right? Our mission. And so it was pretty funny because Bitcoin has 21 million Bitcoin ever. There cannot be more. And Mesin, we didn't know, but when they presented the tokenomics, they were like, there's going to be 21 million Mesin token, right? So really similar, the idea of Bitcoin, and really similar in the way they're building the community, right? Bitcoin, you have to believe in it. You have the Bitcoin white paper, you have the Mesin white paper, which is quite similar. And so getting to know the people behind it, I was really more and more convinced. And again, the synergies between Gains and Mesin, because of the track records and all the network we have, the deals we're able to bring, and the community of Mesin in Asia is just a perfect fit. So we're really excited. And to be honest, I come from Paris. Paris is beautiful for its wine, for its architecture and everything, right? But Europe kind of, and it saddens me to say this, an old empire, right? And the energy is really not the same, right? And even in terms of regulation, law, taxation, everything. In Asia, you can be much more aggressive. You have more hungry people, right? And this is what we want. And so the future is being built in Asia, maybe a bit in the US, where you have different kinds of people. And crypto is this game. Crypto is aggressive, right?
Yep, you need to have the appetite.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you need to be hungry. You need to want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're in Asia, where the people building the future of the world of crypto are, and we're very excited for what's about to come.
It surely sounds like a very exciting time. Now, how will you work with Mesin exactly?
So we will collaborate mostly on deal flow, projects, insights, which gains will bring. Mesin community members will benefit from. They will have exposure to our portfolio. They will get into these exclusive opportunities that we have, right? The key word is really access. Because as I was telling you before, sure, crypto does allow access and so on, breaks the barrier of entry, but you still need to convince the people to get you the deal, right? There's actually something that many people do not understand, but if you have money to invest, even forget about the concept of accredited investor and so on. That does not mean you're going to be able to invest that money, right? Sometimes projects, they raise a certain amount of money, right? Let's say the round is $1 million, right? If it's a really good project, there's going to be more investors than room to invest. So the investors are actually going to be the ones competing within themselves, right? The very best projects do not go to the investors and beg and beg and beg. It's the investors fighting to bring the most value to projects, the investors courting the projects, and the projects telling the investors, what can you do for us so we can let you invest, right? And this is why, as Gains, we have to come to them and we say, look, we love what you do. We'd be happy to, do interviews for you, introduce you to our strategic partners and help you with tokenomics and X and Y and Z. And please, would you let us give you some money in addition to all that, right? So
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that a lot. So it sounds like it's a very intricate, intertwined relationship.
And this is why these projects, which by the way before were already hot with all these investors, now not only you have the projects team working, you have the investors that committed to all this value they're going to bring to the projects. So these projects, which were already strong, are going to be killers, right? And this is how you get the 20, the 50x as well, right? In addition to what I told you about how the ideas can spread and so on in the internet and crypto.
Wow. Sounds really good. I mean, I really like the fact that there's a lot of human aspect behind all of this. It's not just some, like you said, like you mentioned, just random words on the internet where people don't understand a lot of it. So I really like that human touch. Do you have any roadmap? What do you see late 2025 and some of 2026? Do you have any roadmap for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, the broader crypto market, right? We are in a very special time. The crypto market, to be totally honest, was the Wild West, okay? It was, sure, there were crazy opportunities, but there were crazy traps and risk and alligators ready to eat you alive, right? So this is slightly changing, right? The crypto market is becoming more regulated. You have bigger players entering. You actually have literally governments, states buying Bitcoin, right? You have small countries like El Salvador buying 1 Bitcoin per day. You have the two biggest, of course, China and the United States. They have like billions in Bitcoin. So for the very first time in history, you have these governments accumulating a currency that is neutral because they see that it has a shot at being the future, right? And they don't want to be left behind, right? For me, the biggest risk is actually not being exposed at least a tiny bit of your savings, of your portfolio to crypto, right? And that's exactly what these governments are doing, right? They have trillions, they put a few tens of billions in crypto just in case, right? For now, but they're buying more. So you have the governments, right? And then you have the banks. The banks coming in using also the underlying technology, the blockchain technology for transactions, right? And of course, also buying the asset, the crypto tokens and so on, offering these to their high net worth, ultra high net worth clients, right? So crypto is slowly being acquired by the top dogs, right? By the governments, by the banks, by the wealthy people.
But it looks more like institutionalized now.
Right. And my kind of mission and want is that the retail people, the normal people, they don't wait too much to buy, right? You should follow the money. All these wealthy people, they have access to the best information, to the best channels and so on to buy crypto. And now the billions of people, they're going to buy after, right? So there's a shot right now at following the money before it's too late. And this is really what we want to take advantage of with gains. There is something for me that is so crazy to tell you how unprecedented capital is flowing into crypto. There's this ETF. You might have heard ETF. You know, what even is an ETF? You don't even need to know, right? ETF is a way for funds, institutions to buy an asset. And because when you have a fund, you have a mandate, right? And many of the funds were created before crypto existed. Before they knew, they would have liked some exposure to crypto. And so in the mandate, there is no mention of crypto. They cannot buy crypto, but they can buy ETFs. And so if there's a crypto ETF, they can get crypto exposure. So ETF is a financial instrument that allows the traditional funds to get into crypto. And there's literally trillions of capital on the sidelines waiting to get into the BlackRock, which is literally the largest asset manager on earth. They have something like $10 trillion. They have a Bitcoin ETF. And there was a record of how fast the previous ETF, which was the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, reached $80 billion in AUM, in assets under management. That took them 1,814 days, okay, for the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF to reach $80 billion AUM. The BlackRock Bitcoin ETF reached $80 billion in AUM in just 300 something days.
Wow.
So crushing it by like 4 years. So the demand for crypto is just so unprecedented because the capital has been wanting to get into it, but couldn't. And now you're slightly opening the floodgates. If you picture a huge dam, right, with full of water, and you pierce a tiny hole at the bottom, right, and the money starts flowing in. But when you make the hole bigger and bigger, it's going to be a full waterfall, right, pouring in downstream, full of capital. And this is what's going to happen because there's going to be more ETFs being approved for Ethereum, for Solana, for BNB, and for other assets. And so all this capital is going to make the prices skyrocket and then trickle down the ecosystem into many and many coins and NFTs and DeFi projects and so on. And so there's going to be huge opportunities in the next 6, 12, maybe 24 months to take advantage of and seize. And you need the know-how, the experience, the track record, the connections to access these opportunities when the capital starts flowing in. And so it's a very exciting time. We're going to have to navigate it. And I'm really excited to work with Mesin for that reason, because I know the people here will understand how big this is.
Okay. Do you? What about some short term, like the remaining 2025? Is there anything in the short term? And let's compare that with what's down the road for 2026.
Absolutely. So I cannot reveal everything, sadly, but there are a few. First of all, rebrands for Gains. We have some very exciting things coming. We announced our fund, Gains Ventures, which the Mesin community can be a part of. And there are many alpha that we have in the market that we will position the capital into in various ways. And one of the main one is airdrops, because airdrops is actually almost a no risk game, depending on how they're played. Meaning you usually provide liquidity and then you accumulate points. These points later turned into tokens, free tokens, right? And the liquidity you initially provided, you get back. So worst case scenario is the airdrop is not worth so much and you kind of wasted time, which sucks, but is okay. Best case scenario, you got maybe a 2-3x free, right? So that's way of allocating your capital compared to investing in a startup. A startup could use all your funds in salary and operations and fail, and it could be worth nothing. If you put your funds to work for airdrops, you get them back at the end of the day, right? And so that is one of the strategies we're going to use, because there's a couple of very promising airdrops coming into crypto late 2025, maybe Q1 2026. And of course, it's going to be our bread and butter, early stage investing, OTC deals of listed tokens, right? Which is something that we really want to take advantage of, being liquid, right? When you do an OTC deal, when you structure it right, when you have the trust that we have built for 7 years, you're actually able to negotiate very special terms with projects that could allow you to literally have free money, right? Sometimes you can have 100% of the tokens unlocked with a discount on spot, meaning you literally cannot lose money. If you choose to, you could sell all the tokens and make a small profit. But because of the trust we build with projects, we choose the other route, which is waiting a week, 2 weeks. When we do these deals, it's because the projects have a marketing push planned, right? There's always a timing. And so then when the project does 2x, 3x, this is when we take profit, right? And we always help the projects. The marketing push, we're going to be a part of it, right? With all our partners, influencers, market making, exchanges, and so on. So there's quite a few avenues that late 2025 and early 2026 can yield great profits.
All right, that's excellent. So I'm sure for many of the viewers or listeners, they're listening to this, and for someone like me personally, if they want to get started, how do people get started?
So through the Mesin community, right? It's all going to be automated through their platform, and then Gain is going to take care of everything. And the beauty is that they're going to have reports every 2 weeks on the state of the market, on the investments made, on the past investments, how they're doing, on the profits taken, if any projects got launched, and so on. And so it's just going to be a flywheel building of profits and reinvesting them.
All right, excellent. Well, I had a really good time. Do you have any last words that you want to share with the community?
Let me think. Last words.
Anything you want to share with
Yeah.
anyone listening today?
You know, crypto changed my life. Crypto changed the life of literally hundreds of people in our community. And I've made the mistake to tell some of my friends to get into crypto without giving them proper guidance in the past. And sadly they got scammed. I was like, yeah, buy some Bitcoin, and they bought Bitcoin in the wrong way, and they downloaded a wallet which was a fake wallet, and when you fund the wallet, the funds get drained instantly, and so there are lots and lots of traps in crypto that you want to avoid, right? If you tell just someone, hey, go buy some Bitcoin, an average people, there might be 1 in a 2 chance or something like this that they're going to be scared, get it wrong, right? So here, the key point is that guiding people, making sure there's no way they can fall into traps is, for me, like the first prerequisite, right, to success in crypto. And then being set up with, again, the network and the access that we have is really key, because the whole game in crypto is getting closer to the source, right? Think about it. People, you can view it as kind of an onion, or, circles and circles bigger, right? information starts somewhere and then it dissipates through friends, word of mouth. It comes from very small private groups to then slightly bigger private groups and then public groups and so on, right? And your job, our job, is to get closer to the center, right? And this is what we've been doing for 7 years, building relationships with the biggest VCs, influencers, and so on, so that we can get closer and closer to the source. And so avoiding the traps and getting access to the best deals by being close to the source, I think these two are really the two ingredients for the perfect recipe, maximizing profits in crypto. And this is what we've been doing. This is what we're going to continue on doing. A new chapter with Mesin DAO, which I'm sure is going to be a beautiful story.
Well, thank you so much for sharing everything about crypto with us today. I'm sure if there's any other questions, we'll take it on for another day.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cindy.